The hilarious way Michael Weatherly got out of doing a bunch of background work on NCIS behind-the-scenes story that still makes fans laugh. For television viewers around the world, crime dramas often appear polished, serious, and meticulously planned. Every scene seems to unfold perfectly. The agents know exactly where to stand. The suspects enter at the right moment. The cameras capture every glance, every clue, and every dramatic revelation. What audiences rarely see is the mountain of work that happens before those scenes ever make it to television. Behind every successful series is a cast and crew spending countless hours preparing. Scripts are reviewed, scenes are rehearsed, blocking is organized, technical details are discussed, small adjustments are made repeatedly. And sometimes, in the middle of all that serious work, somebody finds a way to make everyone laugh. Few actors became as famous for their playful energy on the set of NCIS as Michael Weatherly. Known to millions for portraying Special Agent Tony Dinozzo, Weatherly spent years bringing humor, charm, and unpredictability to one of television's biggest crime dramas. While his character often cracked jokes during investigations, it turns out the actor himself was equally entertaining when the cameras stopped rolling. One particular story from behind the scenes has become legendary among fans because it perfectly captures Weatherly's personality. It involves a surprising amount of background work, a clever bit of improvisation, and a solution so funny that crew members reportedly remembered it for years. The story offers a rare glimpse into how one actor managed to escape a pile of tedious work while simultaneously making everybody around him laugh. The demands of a television giant. To understand why the story became so memorable, it helps to understand what life on NCIS was like during its peak years. NCIS was not a small production. Episodes were packed with investigations, interrogations, action sequences, and emotional character moments. Every week, the team had to create a complete story that felt fresh while maintaining the show's familiar style. That meant long shooting days. Actors often arrived before sunrise and sometimes stayed until late at night. A scene lasting only a few minutes on television might require several hours to film. The stars of the show carried particularly heavy workloads. They needed to memorize pages of dialogue, hit precise marks on set, and repeat scenes over and over from different camera angles. Many viewers assume the hardest part of acting is delivering emotional speeches or performing dramatic confrontations. But actors frequently say some of the most exhausting work involves repetition. The same walk through a hallway, the same entrance into a room, the same glance at a computer screen. Again and again and again. Eventually, even the most patient performer can become tired of repeating routine tasks. Michael Weatherly was no exception. However, unlike many actors who simply endured the repetition quietly, Weatherly often found creative ways to keep things entertaining. A reputation for mischief. Long before this particular incident became famous, Weatherly had already built a reputation as one of the set's biggest pranksters. Crew members often described him as energetic, spontaneous, and endlessly curious. When filming slowed down, he frequently looked for opportunities to make people laugh. Sometimes that meant joking with fellow cast members. Sometimes it meant inventing silly conversations. Sometimes it meant completely unexpected acts that caught everyone off guard. His fellow actors learned that almost anything could happen when Weatherly was around. One moment he might be discussing a serious scene. The next, he could be performing an exaggerated impression or launching into a completely unrelated story. This unpredictability became part of his charm. Fans loved Tony Dinozzo because the character brought humor into tense situations. Many who worked with Weatherly later suggested that the actor naturally possessed many of the same qualities. He understood that laughter could relieve pressure during long production days. And on a set as demanding as NCIS, a little laughter could go a very long way. The day the work started piling up. According to stories shared over the years, one particular filming day involved an unusual amount of background activity. There were numerous details that needed attention. Movements had to be coordinated, positions had to be adjusted, minor actions had to be repeated. The kind of work that is essential for creating a polished final product, but not always exciting for performers. As the tasks continued, the workload seemed to grow larger and larger. One instruction led to another. then another, then another. Before long, what should have been a simple sequence had become a surprisingly complicated process. For many actors, the only option would have been to push through and finish everything exactly as requested. Weatherly, however, saw an opportunity. Not an opportunity to avoid helping, not an opportunity to cause trouble, an opportunity to make the situation funny. And once that idea entered his mind, the entire atmosphere began to change. A creative escape plan. Rather than openly complaining about the growing pile of background work, Weatherly reportedly approached the situation from a completely different angle. He started joking, then he kept joking, then he escalated the jokes. Crew members who expected a routine day suddenly found themselves watching an improvised comedy performance. The actor transformed ordinary moments into entertainment. Simple instructions became opportunities for playful commentary. Minor delays became setups for humorous observations. Instead of focusing on how repetitive the work felt, people found themselves laughing, and when people laugh, time seems to move faster. The mood shifted dramatically. What could have been a tedious stretch of filming became one of the more memorable moments of the day. The remarkable part was that Weatherly's humor accomplished something unexpected. The attention moved away from the tedious work itself. Everybody became focused on the fun. In a sense, he had found a way to escape the burden of the situation without actually disrupting production. It was a classic Michael Weatherly move. Why the story fits. Tony Dinozzo. Perfectly fans often point out that this story sounds exactly like something Tony Dinozzo would do. Throughout NCIS, Dinozzo rarely approached problems in a conventional way. He preferred creativity, he preferred humor, he preferred finding unusual solutions. When faced with a difficult task, Dinozzo often relied on charm and quick thinking. Weatherly's behind-the-scenes behavior reflected many of those same traits. This overlap helped make the character feel authentic. Viewers believed Dinozzo's jokes because Weatherly delivered them naturally. The actor wasn't pretending to understand comedic timing, he genuinely possessed it. Stories like this one reveal how closely the performer's personality sometimes aligned with the role that made him famous. The crew's reaction. Perhaps the most telling part of the story is the reaction from the people around him. Television crews are accustomed to pressure. They work hard, they move quickly, they solve problems constantly. For a joke to stand out in that environment, it has to be genuinely funny. According to accounts from people connected to the production, Weatherly's antics achieved exactly that. Crew members laughed. Cast members laughed. Even individuals focused on technical responsibilities found themselves enjoying the moment. The laughter spread throughout the set. What began as one actor trying to make a repetitive task more enjoyable evolved into a shared experience. Years later, people still remembered it. That may be the strongest indication of all. Television productions generate thousands of moments. Most are forgotten. The memorable ones are usually those that create genuine emotion, and few emotions are more memorable than laughter. More than just a funny story. At first glance, the tale seems like a simple anecdote. An actor gets tired of repetitive work. He cracks some jokes. Everyone laughs. End of story. But there is actually something deeper beneath the humor. Long-running television series depend heavily on morale. When people spend years working together, relationships matter, atmosphere matters, energy matters. A positive environment can help sustain a production through difficult schedules and demanding workloads. People who worked on successful shows often say that chemistry behind the scenes is just as important as chemistry on camera. Stories involving Weatherly frequently highlight his ability to lift spirits. Whether he was making jokes, telling stories, or improvising unexpected bits of comedy, he contributed to an environment where people enjoyed coming to work. That kind of contribution rarely appears in credits, but it can make an enormous difference. The legacy of a set prankster. Years after leaving NCIS, Michael Weatherly remains strongly associated with Tony Dinozzo. Fans continue watching old episodes. New audiences continue discovering the series, and behind-the-scenes stories continue circulating among devoted viewers. Many of those stories focus not on dramatic scenes or ratings milestones, but on moments of humor, moments when the people making the show simply enjoyed being together. This particular tale endures because it highlights something audiences love. It reminds them that the stars they watch on screen are human beings. They get bored, they get creative, they look for ways to have fun, and occasionally they turn an ordinary workday into a story that people will still be telling years later. For Michael Weatherly, that seems perfectly fitting. After all, making people smile was always one of his greatest strengths. Whether he was portraying Tony DiNozzo chasing suspects across Washington, exchanging jokes with his teammates, or finding a hilarious way to avoid a mountain of background work, he understood something important. Entertainment isn't only what happens in front of the camera. Sometimes the funniest moments happen when nobody expects them.